Hello and welcome to Signal Shift with me, Raakhee. Today is a big day. It's a big celebration day because it's our 100th episode. Now, if you count, you technically will see a bit more than 100 formally, technically on the site. But in terms of actual original, solo episodes, not repeated content, just pure 100 episodes, that is this particular episode. But it's also a big celebration day because I get to reunite with a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Lana Price. Welcome, Lana.
Oh, it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. It's fun to be on this side as a guest. And so I'm just thrilled and really want to celebrate and honor you, Raakhee, for 100 episodes of Signal Shift.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And Lana, you've contributed to I think like 60 of those, right? So it's very much our celebration and a huge thank you to you as well. And yeah, I will say we miss Sue. It just didn't work out for Sue to be here, so it feels a little bit incomplete. So Sue, we do miss you. We wish you could have been here for us to have this reunion, but I'm so happy to see you and be with you here, Lana. I think we both are just like kind of popping off with a joy right now.
Totally, yeah.
Lana, yeah, but tell us, I mean, you're also doing some really exciting, fun, authentic, beautiful things. And please share with us a little bit of just what you've been up to.
Yeah, I have kind of launched a new, I guess I call it a creative site, a blog, newsletter, and it's called Pragmagical. And it is really about navigating life transitions, kind of bridging between practicality and possibility. And so it's pragmagical because it's really holding that tension between pragmatism and magic. It's been so much fun. And yeah, if this sounds interesting to anyone, can sign up at Pragmagical. So if folks want a little primer about seeing the future and really holding, strategic foresight as the pragmatic methodology to seeing the future, but also, what are some other tools and approaches to seeing the future as well.
I know there's also these sort of whimsical, fun parts to it, right? And tarot is one of them.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say that. And I was going to say for anyone who's interested in the tarot, today's my card. I pull a card every day, and today's card is perfect for just our theme right now. So I pulled the Sun card, which is just a really beautiful, joyous card. And so when I saw that, I was like, yay, like it's just a perfect alignment for really on, just our reunion, the 100th episode, and maybe even some of the themes that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Thank you, Lana. I love that. I always love when you pull cards and share that deeper story with us. So, so exciting. I love what you're doing, and I will link the site as well for everyone. So, for today's call, there's no theme. We just wanted to kind of step back into that practice of where we would all pitch up with a signal, and the other person had no idea what that signal was, and we just surprise each other with our signals and learn from each other, which is such a beautiful practice to do. But yeah, Lana, what signal did you bring today?
Yeah, so I have two that are related to each other, and this is about, I feel like one of the big topics right now is AI job displacement, right? And so and there's a big narrative around, very fear-based narrative around, how quickly and how far widespread AI will replace the human workforce. And so maybe a possible counter signal to this narrative is, there was an article that came out in the Wall Street Journal that said that AI is using so much energy that computing firepower is running out. So basically the demand is growing far faster than companies are able to access resources and build out infrastructure. And so historically what what you do, when the demand outpaces the supply is you change the price, right? So price would increase. But the frontier AI companies are in such fierce competition, they're really trying to like gain and lock in users. And so they're holding the price very steady. And one thing that's happened, like Anthropic has been plagued by outages. They've been metering the computing supply during peak hours, but that makes users very angry. And also the reliability of their services has gone down. So usually core services on the internet and in software are measured like 99.99%. That is the standard. You cannot even afford a millisecond of downtime. But as of April 8th, Anthropic was at 98.95. And so they've essentially run out of the infrastructure, so this goes down to the data warehouses, right? They don't have enough space yet to fill that computing firepower. So it's like kind of good news, right? Like if we wanted to slow AI down, it is being slowed down by real physical limitation. And, this reliability, right, isn't there because of that too. So another related point is, have you seen the show Yellowstone?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I was exhausted by the end of it. Like, I cannot do this anymore, but I have seen it.
So this is like right out of Yellowstone, basically. It's like a storyline. But there's a story in The Guardian that talked about how farmers are refusing to sell their farmland for data warehouses. And they are rejecting bids, like outrageous bids, right? Like millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, some of them hundreds of millions of dollars. Like that's how valuable their land is for this problem, this data warehouse problem. And they're like banding together to say no. And so, it's a little kind of like, that's another maybe heartwarming example where there's a human resistance, right? And it's for their own reasons, right? It's for their families, it's for their identity, it's for their culture. They don't want to sell out. And some are selling out, right? Some, I think that's understandable. If someone walks up to you and says, I'll give you a blank check for any amount of money that you want, of course, like who, it's hard to argue that you're not going to take it, but quite a few are not. So I think that's also, to me, it was kind of like, okay, it's not just a steamroller that is just going to go regardless, at the wild speed, right? We have some other forces at play here that can slow things down. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are like, yay. It's the same reaction, right? I think there is a need for slowing down. And while I think we hoped that would come from policy and governments, everything was just happening too fast. So yeah, it seems like maybe some form of balancing act happening here, which is very much needed. So that is a good sign, and that is the right way for things to progress. I mean, we need to catch a breath, right? Figure things out, build the right way. Instead of the insane speed at which everything is kind of moving, particularly in the AI and robotics space. I just did the episode that went out today, and part 2 will go out next week, but it's about robotics in healthcare. There was a story of a 24-year-old who died in ICU, and he was being monitored by a telehealth robotic sort of doctor. So doctor was the intelligence. And of course the family is suing, right? There's a lot of deeper questions around that and just overall negligence, but the speed of it is this, oh my gosh, it's the question of the times, and something we do have to, in a sense, I think, fight against, right? Rage against the machine sort of thing. But Yeah. So I love that. I love that. That's a great one. I'll share my one. It's a very different one, but I think they actually link and they do speak to each other. And this is also a positive, uplifting one, I would think. And I thought of you and I was like, I think Lana will love this one as well. So a company, it's a creative agency in Amsterdam. It's called Tosti Creative. They they were doing work and designing briefs and creative briefs for clients, but a lot of the work was around some of the issues facing older populations, like loneliness in aging populations and things like that, and products for those sorts of things. And so they were serving, older people around this. And someone had the idea of saying, like, hey, I get that you're serving me and asking me these questions, but why don't you like bring me in to actually give you ideas? Like, if you're getting my thoughts on this, I might have really good ideas of what you could do. And they thought it was a great idea. And so they brought in 12, 70 plus, like well-retired kind of people who hadn't been doing this stuff onto these creative briefs and got them to kind of think up and come up with these ideas and collaborate with them. And it worked out really beautifully. They had kind of three groups. They were split up in three groups. They mixed things up in terms of background and gender, and they worked on things for like three clients. I think one of them was Vodafone Foundation, and it was digital skills for older adults. The other one was housing market mobility. The other one was kind of where host families take care of refugees and looking at that as well. And they brought the insights. They actually took these briefs to clients. It was so well received, and it was just a beautiful lesson again in how much value and knowledge exists in older generations that we kind of take for granted, right? And again, speaking against that AI and the ease of just getting your chat response, but there are layers and layers of embedded knowledge in ways we don't even know how to quantify and recognize when somebody has lived for 7 decades, right? And they've seen so much in the world, particularly generations who've been there from the start of no tech to kind of tech, right? They were there like before the internet became a household thing. So yeah, pretty amazing. And I think it was a real lesson in that. And it reminded me of I very recently on the podcast we had a 60-something DJ, DJ Tina Technotic, right? And she transitioned into this career basically, in late 50s. And just has this mindset of it really doesn't matter, and it doesn't. And she spoke about how and her partner, her DJ partner, I think is in her late 20s, early 30s, something like that. And it's just that magic again of that intergenerational mixing. There's just something to it, right? And these different perspectives. Because the truth is that when you're 40 or when you're 20, you've only seen certain things, you only understand certain things, and you've experienced things that sure older generations haven't, but there's a lot that exactly they have experienced that you haven't. So when you bring that together, just so much more, right, to be discovered and so many greater insights. So yeah, that was my one, Lana.
I love it. And I think, I think what the one that what you're bringing up is, especially as our population, not just in the country where we are in the United States, but globally as we're aging, right? And just putting the customer voice in the center of the design experience. And I think we will quickly see like how many things are really inadequate for serving our needs as we age, right? And so I think that what you're saying won't be as much of an anomaly. I think that's another thing that the podcast has done a really good job of spotlighting different designers, because designers are really the ones who are also employing strategic foresight and thinking about future needs. And so I think what you've pointed to really comes back to that intersection.
Yeah. And I think, again, speaking about this concern around AI and job loss, which is a valid concern, but just kind of showing this alternative narrative that's also true that, wow, look at us integrating knowledge, right, of different groups of people who should technically be the least employable, should not be working, right? And yet realizing, wow, no, there's so much value to be added. I think there's so many alternative narratives around work. to be explored, and so much more, yeah, that we haven't even tapped into. And that kind of speaks to the Beta Imagination Lab that we have kind of happening at this point in time, and which will become available for everybody over the next 2 months or so. But yeah, I think just interesting to bring these concepts. I think it really speaks to them, the work we're doing in the Beta Imagination Lab as well. So yeah, I love that. Those just great signals, and I'm so glad we kept it to always being uplifting and fun, Lana, and hopeful. Sticking to the positive side of things.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was thinking of the Beta Imagination Lab when I was thinking about my signals, because yeah, I think the AI job displacement conversation is real and people are scared. And I think what you're offering is, a way to make that conversation bigger than that, right? Like more expansive, more thinking about the possibilities, and really putting the agency back in our hands as humans. Like to say, really, it's about our agency, it's about our creativity. It's like our choices are more limited by, if we can't imagine it, right, then we don't see our options.
Yeah.
But the bigger we can make that purview, the bigger we are, what's available to us. So I'm very excited to see how that goes and what comes of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said there. I mean, that was so beautifully stated, and it's exactly that. It's about agency, and it's realizing this inherent power we do have, and that there's actually an opportunity in all of this disruption. And we have a lot of power that we may not have realized. So I love all of that. Lana, the one thing I wanted to cover today as well was just major headlines on certain stories we've covered in the past, and how those have sort of come up again in the media and where they're at again, and just speaking to, I think, the relevance of all the signals we have covered over time and how important it is, right? And how it is shifting culture and the world we live in. And I just love to get your take on it, and maybe you've even seen the headlines for some of these. So one was skiers who were literally skiing in their bikinis. Did you see that?
I did see some really sad pictures of people on like grassy hills with their skis, but I don't know if I saw the bikini one.
Yeah. These, there was some snow on, I can't remember which state. It was in the US. I think some of it was happening in Europe as well, but it was just kind of saying like, oh, it is so warm, we can actually be in our bikinis. There's just about enough snow to maybe possibly ski, yeah, probably not safely. But yeah, I mean, we spoke about what is happening with ski resorts, and we've kind of seen it a little bit more each year. And I just felt like, oh, this year was really the tip of saying, wow, it's changed. It's completely changed. So that was one. The other one, which was, and it is a passion area for Sue as well, but it was the cacao and everything that's happening with cacao farming. And I'm sure you saw the viral Hershey's chocolate.
I did. I totally thought, I thought of how we had covered the chocolate and how companies were like replacing, um, their chocolate candies with different ingredients.
Yeah, exactly. So that was another interesting one where I think now, I think, most people are starting to realize and understand, oh, wow, that chocolate's at risk. We're not actually getting real cacao in our chocolate, and starting to question what we consume as chocolate. Like, what actually is it? What's in it? What does it mean? And hopefully, again, more of a respect for cacao, and using it wisely and sparingly, as those prices are going to continue to go up, I think. So really interesting landscape there. And then this was just, a fun one, and you'd appreciate it. But there was an article about Nicole Kidman has become a death doula.
Yes. Yes.
And we've spoken a lot about, of course, death and acceptance and cloning and, yeah, cryogenic freezing.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'll add one that's just come to mind that I thought of. You know, we've talked a lot about pets, but it's the emergence of um, I want to say that it's like the pet luxury market, which not, I mean, spas is just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, but it's pet longevity. And so it's kind of sad, which is another thing that we've talked about. And so I think uh, that's what kind of makes it fun is when we see the signals converge, right? And they become new things. And so just, you know, people putting their pets on a like specialized diet that really kind of mimics the longevity movement that we have for humans, I thought was just yeah, another interesting thing that's kind of circling back to the themes we've covered.
Yes, yes. No, absolutely. And it's, you know, it's exactly like we spoke about, is that pets are now that additional family member. And even with, I mean, we spoke about animal rights, right? And the rights of pets and that getting recognized in different ways, so much more. And so I think this trajectory of really recognizing this entity form in almost all equal ways as humans, like maybe not cognitively, but in every other sense, right? To treat them as our equals and opening up, I guess, those markets for them as well in retail. So
That's right.
um, and then two other two last interesting ones. This was really hopeful. This was really nice. But Terry Crew's wife, who has Parkinson's, is using some sort of radical new treatment that uses sound waves to kind of treat her brain to help with things like the tremors. And yeah, it just reminds me of, course, histotripsy, right? The name of kind of
Mhm.
the treatment we spoke about. And we spoke about sound as like the next frontier of healing and medicine. And that is emerging right now as well in a big way. So that is so cool to see. Yeah. So that
Really,
was
really cool.
yeah, so that was one. And then the last one was, I don't know if you recall, we spoke about nightlife so much as well, right? And nightmares was one of it. And nightmares are growing. Nashville, Syracuse, like lots of cities are now starting to implement this concept of nightmares because it's working out so effectively and positively. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw back to those and refresh us on those and just say like, wow, look at these themes.
I love that we're doing this as part of the 100th episode because I think it really speaks to the power of looking for signals as a practice, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice way to recap on, wow, 100 episodes and talking about how the world is changing, how culture is shifting, and hopefully, yeah, to, you know, like the next 100 episodes where we will pick up, you know, even more and more signals of what's happening in the world, and kind of being just at least a little bit ahead of the curve, you know, and picking up more of what's happening on the fringe and what's going to be happening next. So yeah, Lana, this was so, so special. It was so fun, so amazing to have you here. And to everyone listening, thank you for supporting us over the years, we can kind of say now, you know, and yeah, to reach the kind of 100th episode milestone is pretty amazing. I think when you're doing the work, it doesn't necessarily hit you. So I'm not sure if I've comprehended it myself, to be honest. But hopefully it's something that'll sink in at some point. But thank you so much for the support. And here's to the next 100. Thank you so much. And bye for now.